Hi guys, welcome back to the FPL Duo. We're back for another stream. This is the FPL transfer tips video for Game Week 18, the buy, sell, hold, and ignore series, where we recommend you 2 players that you should be looking to buy, sell, hold, and ignore. If you are just joining into the stream, please do drop a like and also subscribe to our YouTube channel if you can. But yeah, how you doing, Jordan? All is good?
Yeah, always good. It's been a great start to the return of FPL, especially with the amount of goals and the teams that have obviously won so far. So yeah, all good.
Yeah, we'll get into that obviously in tomorrow's stream where we discuss the knee-jerk reaction. But let's talk Game Week 18. It's a very quick turnaround because deadline is on Friday for Game Week 18. So we've not had very long to think about our teams and transfers and all that because literally 2-3 days to think about it. But we thought we'd do your video anyway for the transfer tips. So let's bring up the first player on the list as we recommend for a buy. And we've got to discuss Mitrovic as a player, I think. So Mitrovic goes and gets a 15-point return or 15-point haul against Crystal Palace, where he gets an assist and a goal. Very good performance from him. I know Crystal Palace had the 2 red cards, so that obviously helped impact the game. But nonetheless, I think Mitrovic is one that we should be looking to on a buy. I know it's quite tough to recommend a buy after just one game week technically, because we started again with our wild card pretty much that we got, or unlimited transfers, I should say. But Mitrovic is one that I think a lot of us should have our eye on, especially in game week 19, where it is a double game week. Now, it is a double game week, right? So we've got to keep eyes on that one because we know he's still a good option, and we shouldn't forget, just because he's on a yellow card, we shouldn't completely ignore him, in my opinion. And definitely one that I'll be looking at bringing in for my team, potentially for Martial. So you look at his numbers, 13 appearances, 10 goals, and now 1 assist. He is carrying on his brilliant form that he had at the start of the season, and he's looking, as a great option still. So he had a game week. So Leicester and Chelsea is actually a double game week. So the graphics there do bear that in mind, guys. And then in game week 20, he has Newcastle, and then in game week 21, he has Spurs, and then obviously game week 22, he's got Chelsea as well. So he does have a double, and in that sense, I really like him as a potential pick. Maybe not this game week, as Michael Philip Michael music. Merry Christmas, gents. Merry Christmas to you, mate. Hope you're well. I'm holding Nunes at least for one more. Yeah, I'd agree. You'd hold Nunes. We'll come on to all of that in a bit. But Mitrovic is definitely one you should be looking to buy just because of his double game week in game week 19 against Leicester and Chelsea, and I think his numbers are still good. And yeah, what's your thoughts quickly on Mitrovic, Jordan?
Yeah, he's been a great, let's say, surprise to the Premier League. Never thought Mitrovic would do this well, coming back into the Premier League, Fulham. But yeah, he has surprised a lot with 10 goals already in 13 appearances. That's an outstanding record for him. Best record he's had in the Premier League. And he is managing to get now assists, because he did originally have no assists beforehand. But yeah, he's been great, Mitrovic, through this season. He did have an injury concern before the World Cup, obviously, but that doesn't seem to have faltered him in this match he's literally just played. So yeah, he looks pretty good. I mean, in Crystal Palace game, he looked all right. Nothing really, no issues with him whatsoever. There is that sort of, you have to take it with a pinch of salt because he's on 4 yellow cards. So if he does get 1 yellow card, then he is suspended. So there is that to watch out for when you actually buy Mitrovic as well. But other than that, he is a definite must buy, I guess, for a forward, because he is consistently scoring goals for Fulham. He seems to be the main goal scorer as well. So yeah, he's a great pick at 6.8 million too. He's not expensive for a forward option, and his ownership is relatively low. I mean, just over 8% don't have Mitrovic, only 18% do. I expect that to rise over 20% by game week 18. But yeah, he's a great forward pick to go for, especially for his double game week coming up soon as well. And with Southampton at home next, you can probably be certain that he can get a return from that.
Yeah, of course. Hopefully, he doesn't pick up the yellow card, and then I think he becomes an important transfer for the double game week. But yeah, moving on to Robertson. Now, it's quite hard to obviously select players to buy because I think a lot of people will be rolling their transfers this week for game week 18. So, if you are looking to buy someone, I suggest Andrew Robertson. I wanted to pick someone a bit different, a bit of a differential. His ownership's 5.4% when we did check. Maybe that's gone up by now, but looking at Andrew Robertson, 13 appearances, 5 assists as well. He got a lovely assist for Mo Salah's goal yesterday. So Trent, lovely ball out towards Robertson with the outside of his boot. Robertson kind of cuts it back and Salah gets a tap in. Now, I've been watching Liverpool closely and I've seen a little change in tactic with their game. So we're used to Trent Alexander-Arnold going very forward, but Liverpool have slightly tweaked it now. And I don't know if people have noticed, but when I've been watching them, it feels like Trent now has become the one that sits in more, and Robertson actually has the license to go up and attack. So if you just want to watch out on, he's at the price range of 6.8 million. So it's a very similar price to, Cancelo. So if you wanted to switch from Cancelo to Robertson, I think maybe not for this game week, but if you are looking for a move, I think Robertson could be pretty good for the next 5. If you look at it, the fixtures on paper, Leicester, Brentford, Brighton, Chelsea, and Wolves. His expected assist per 90 0.25 as well. So Robertson is someone that I actually considered myself. I know I did recommend Robertson to you as well, Jordan, instead of Cancelo and having Edison Robertson potentially. Yeah. He obviously got the assist. He did also pick up the bonus. Didn't keep the clean sheet, which is the worry with Liverpool. I don't know how many clean sheets they'll keep. So bear that in mind when you do bring in a Liverpool asset. I don't expect them to keep many clean sheets. But in terms of attacking returns, he seems to be going more forward and has more license now than Trent, which is a surprise because usually it's the other way around. Trent's the one that usually goes more forward, but he's getting involved. He's putting balls into Darwin Núñez. Another lovely ball he put in for Darwin Núñez where he just missed it on the volley. So he's one that I'm looking out for now and potentially in the coming weeks. Potentially for maybe Cancelo if he doesn't show his form, but Robertson is just one that I like the look of at his low ownership. I thought would recommend you guys to keep an eye out on as well, and the way he plays in that new system with more license seemingly to go forward. I don't know if you caught too much of the game, but what's your overall thoughts, or do you want to add anything?
I did listen to a bit of the Liverpool game, obviously, because I can't watch it. But yeah, Robertson is an interesting one because Trent now is playing in a different role, and now Robertson's pretty much sort of like a replacement for him in terms of he pushes more up front. I'll say it's pretty good. I mean, for 5.4% ownership, a differential pick for Robertson, he may grow into the role of what Trent originally was. So this could be the start of a new asset to bring in for Liverpool in terms of defence, other than Trent, who we usually would bring in for our teams. So this could potentially break the template for where we used to have Trent and have Robertson instead, and for a cheaper price as well, 6.8 million. So it does save money on bringing in, if you dare bring in a Liverpool defender, as they haven't kept many clean sheets so far this season, but you can expect the attack and return still from, let's say, Robertson, who is a decent buy, I say as well, as Haas did mention to me, Robertson, and I didn't really look into it much, but yeah, Robertson is a decent buy for 5 assists this season and no goals, but he has that attack return as a defender, and as Liverpool don't keep clean sheets, as long as Robertson gets the attacker returns, that's pretty much good as a clean sheet for a defender. So yeah, he is one to look out for, and if you want to, you can potentially bring him in early, as you could probably expect Robertson to provide more for Liverpool in defence.
Yeah, I like the pick. He's one I'm looking at potentially as well. But yeah, he's the second buy on the list. Let's move on to some players that maybe we should sell now. We had to do it for the purpose of this video to recommend 2 players to sell. I don't know if I'd be selling many players, but because we have to for the video, I know it's weird to say because it's basically game week 1, really. So Zaha, we put him on the list. He's got Bournemouth next, so you probably don't want to sell him. But as I said, for the purpose of this video, we believe there's our better midfielders instead of Zaha. Because you look at after game week 18, he's got Tottenham, Chelsea, Newcastle, and then Manchester United as well. So he's got some tough fixtures in there in the next 5. I don't believe they have any double game weeks scheduled. Zaha's actually having quite a good season for Palace with 6 goals and 2 assists. His numbers aren't too bad, but I believe the midfield slots are very precious. I think a lot of us have KDB or Salah or Bruno in your case. Martinelli, Saka, Odegaard, these Arsenal play assets looking very good. Even cheap players like Almiron who carries on performing. We're running out of midfield slots, and I don't know if we should be wasting a midfield slot on Zaha. In my opinion, he's owned by 15.5% as well of the game, so he's quite, he's fairly high owned. Hitting towards that 20% mark, and I don't know if I'd want to waste a slot. I don't want to say waste because obviously that's a bit harsh, but I don't want to take up a midfield slot with Zaha maybe in my team. So we had to put it for a sell for just the purpose of this video. If I had him, I'd probably hold him for that game week 18. But I think there's so many midfielders now that you could potentially switch to, like Odegaard. I like the look of him. I know we could have put Odegaard as a buy as well, actually. I really like his performance yesterday for Arsenal. 2 assists, I think, as well. He looks very good, and he could be easily replaced instead of Zaha. There's Kulusevski that you could bring in who has a double game week coming up. I just think there's more value in other midfielders. Would you agree, Jordan? What's your thoughts on Zaha?
Yeah, a player like Zaha, he's a kind of, let's say, a player that will score, but it takes a few matches before he gets a return. He's sort of a hot and cold player, like we've mentioned before. And like I say, with the fixtures that Zaha has coming up after Bournemouth, they do get more difficult. And I feel like by the time it gets to like Chelsea away, for example, and then Newcastle home United, I don't see many returns coming from Zaha, especially for a player that doesn't return back-to-back weekly in game weeks. He's pretty much returns one game week pretty well, and then blanks for probably 2 or 3. And I don't see much hindsight after the Bournemouth game to actually have Zaha in your team, as other midfielders are performing much more consistently and more efficiently every game week, whereas Zaha may not be able to keep up with that, and potentially taking up a midfielder spot where you could have someone else who is getting those returns weekly and who have better fixtures than Crystal Palace. And we also have to consider as well the 2 red cards will have an impact from yesterday's game as well on Zaha too. So there's all these factors to consider for Zaha. Is whether you choose to keep him, obviously for Bournemouth, as that is a good fixture still, but we have put him as a sell just because of the time frame we have. But yeah, he is one to look out for. Obviously, after game week 18, if you want to consider selling for another midfielder, he is 7.5 million. So there is that sort of easy swap if you could reach to an 8 million midfielder, or potentially one that is cheaper than Zaha, like Martinelli or Rodrigo. So there is that. I expect his ownership to drop as the coming game weeks come ahead, as the fixtures do get difficult. But yeah, I'll say Zaha is a definite sell in the future.
Okay, let's move on to some players that we think you should be holding on to and maybe given another chance to. And these are players probably people maybe knee-jerking out their team. I think we got to be patient with these players. And sorry, it's another sell. Sorry, my bad. We're still on the sells. I thought we were going to hold players now. So the final sell that we recommend to you guys is another player that is interesting because and Perisic, because a lot of us had him in our Game Week 1 teams. I don't think I had him in my Game Week 1 team, but he was one that a lot of us had at the start of the season as someone that we thought, you know what, him playing in a Conte system looks very attractive and we could bring him in. But 16 appearances, 6 off the bench. He's got four assists, which is actually pretty good, I think, because obviously bearing in mind Robertson has about 5, and we recommended you buy Robertson. But he's got Villa next, which I think is a pretty good fixture for Spurs. Then Palace, Arsenal, City, and then Fulham. So it does get a bit tricky, in that middle gap. Arsenal and City back to back isn't easy, so maybe we wouldn't see too many clean sheets there. Spurs also, I mean, I don't know if you guys catch the game against Brentford. Spurs weren't great in that game. They started off very slow, very, very slow in that game, and Spurs have a habit of doing it. They start off very slow, they concede 1 or 2 goals, and then in the second half they make a big comeback, and they usually come back actually and equalize or even go ahead. And I don't know how sustainable that is for Spurs to carry on doing that, where they go behind and they're relying on a comeback every single time. And for that reason, I'm not very keen on Spurs defense. I don't see them keeping many clean sheets. I know they played Tanganga as a centre back as well in that game. They've got a few injuries as well. I think Romero, he should be back though. Obviously, get into the final with Argentina. But yeah, I'm not so sure on Perisic. I'm not keen on him as an option. I don't know if I'd hold him if I had him. I think if you got him, his ownership is 20%, which is surprisingly quite high. Maybe those are inactive managers. I don't know, but he'd be a sell for me. I just think there's other defenders I'd rather spend my money on. And yeah, that's my just general thoughts on Perisic. What do you make of Spurs? Obviously, their 2-2 comeback. We will talk about that more in depth tomorrow. But yeah, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, it's not the first time Spurs in general have conceded and somehow made a comeback. We saw it against Leeds previously as well when they were losing, and then suddenly switched it around and made it a win. So with Spurs' situation, there's not really any hindsight of a clean sheet that we can see, especially in that game yesterday, which the defence was pretty poor. And I don't expect it to be any better against the fixtures they have coming up. I mean, Aston Villa could potentially be a clean sheet, but after Game Week 18, there is, I probably see 1 clean sheet in the next 4 fixtures for Spurs. So I don't really see many clean sheets from Perisic or any defender for Spurs in general. The only thing you can hope for is a return, like an assist to add on to Perisic's 4. But other than that, it's not really not a particular team I would want to have a defender like Perisic in at the moment. I think there's other teams that have better defence at the moment that can get a clean sheet, whereas Spurs don't look like they are at all.
Yeah,
they seem to be struggling in the first half, a bit like Man United did in the early starts of the season, where they would concede and then try and get back into the game. Where it seems like that is every game with Spurs, they're losing and then they try and make a comeback, and what ended up as a draw yesterday, which isn't a great result for Conte, I imagine.
Yeah.
But yeah, for Perisic, it's definitely a sell. I mean, I'm surprised that his ownership is 20%. I mean, players own Perisic. That's pretty high for him. But I expect that to drop as the game week continues and we lead up to game week 18. He is pretty cheap, Perisic, at 5.6, but I imagine you can squeeze to someone a bit more expensive or a little bit more cheaper if you want to save up on money. And yeah, I agree. Perisic is definitely a sell.
Also, I was just going to add the other thing with him is rotation. Games coming thick and fast. He can easily be rotated in the next one for someone like Sessegnon. So there's that slight worry there, which kind of puts me off, I think, having Perisic in my team. Anyway, time to move on to some players that we think you should hold on to. And the first one is Callum Wilson, who has been transferred out by a few people after bringing him in the unlimited transfers game week 17. Now, we know Callum Wilson isn't in the squad for their win against Leicester. When the team news came out, a lot of us were surprised because we expected him to start. But Eddie Howe has now told us that Callum Wilson actually was ill. So it wasn't fitness related. He wasn't, injured or anything like that. He was ill and he should be back for that game against Leeds. And for those that are taking him out, definitely I wouldn't be doing that. I think you have to hold him. You've bought him in for game week 17 because of his fixtures and because of how well Newcastle are playing. And if I had Newcastle assets, I would not be getting rid of any of them. And they're second in the league now. Very, very impressive from Newcastle, where they were a year ago to where they are now. And they look like a team that could definitely make Champions League football this season, which maybe many of us saw coming, even though with their investment in the squad, we thought maybe a year or two away. But it looks like they're not wasting any time. And I wouldn't be wanting to get rid of Wilson if I had him, regardless of his exclusion, because that was just through illness. So for me, he's an easy hold. 6 goals, 2 assists. His expected goals per 90 as well, very respectable at 0.7. Fixtures are decent. Newcastle are playing well. Stats and the eye test, they're all passing with flying colours. And I think you got to hold Wilson. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. Newcastle have been a surprise this season. We never thought they would be second in the table of the Premier League at this moment in time. And they gave a great result against Leicester yesterday, winning 3-0. Everyone played well. I mean, there was not a single player that was dreadful at all. Everyone was doing their part in that game. And it was a shame that Callum Wilson wasn't a part of that, as I think they did have a penalty too, which Chris Wood took as he is the other penalty taker for Newcastle. So it is a shame that he didn't take part in that, because he would have potentially scored that penalty for them, and it would have been happy for the people that brought him in. But yeah, I agree. He's definitely a hold. Just because he missed that one game doesn't mean you need to get rid of him, as Newcastle at the moment, fixture-wise, they have Leeds next at home for game week 18. So hopefully Wilson is all set and ready to go for that game. Obviously, it is only because he's ill and not injury related, which is a relief, as it was a bit of a surprise that we didn't see him at all in the squad. But yeah, they have a difficult fixture in game week 19 against Arsenal, which I'm quite excited to see what that game gives, as it's not knowing who would win that.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, it's going to be a good game for that. But other than that, after the game week 19 fixtures, they have Fulham at home, Crystal Palace away, who don't look that great, and then West Ham at home. So there is a lot of you can see a lot of goals and returns from Newcastle in the next upcoming 5 fixtures for them. And as long as Callum Wilson is fine, no injuries or whatnot, I think it'll be a great hold for the next 5 fixtures, definitely for Newcastle, as they look pretty good on form. They've won 4 of their matches so far, so they're on quite a win streak, and I imagine that is set to continue.
Yeah, guys, don't panic. If you did bring in Wilson, would be holding for sure. Moving on to another player that has been transferred out by a few managers already, maybe frustrated after his performance against Villa. Now, I thought Nunes, it's odd to say, I thought he played pretty well, but we're always going to look at the chances he missed. And he did miss quite a few big chances. He should have scored at least. I don't know how he didn't score in that game. For those that did watch, Liverpool did beat Aston Villa 3-1 yesterday. And Nunes has come in for flack for missing those chances. And, rightly so. But overall, his game is still good. He's getting in those positions. And let's discuss. So ownership is 17.4%. So it's quite high. And a lot of people did bring him in on their unlimited transfers draft. He's got Leicester next at home at Anfield, which I think is a decent fixture. Obviously, Leicester coming off the back of a 3-0 loss. Brentford, Brighton, Chelsea, Wolves. So the fixtures do look quite good for Liverpool. There is also the chance Liverpool have a double game week in game week 21. Not confirmed, but we'll have to wait and see. We know Liverpool have actually signed Cody Gakpo. So we'll have to see how that affects them at their attack, what happens to Nunes' minutes. But I think Nunes should be fine regardless of that, because I expect Cody Gakpo to maybe play on the left as well as Nunes. And look, I think Nunes is still a good pick. If I had him, I wouldn't be panicking getting rid of him after that. He's still scored 5 goals in 11 appearances. I think his numbers are still decent in all comps. I think he's got 9 goals for Liverpool in 20 games, but in about 1,000 minutes played, which is only like 10 full games because a lot of it was off the bench. So his numbers are actually good. Obviously, his expected goals per 90 is 0.70, which is very, very high. Um, so he's getting the chances. It's just obviously finishing them is where next he has to take that step. And I would be patient with him if I had him. I wouldn't be getting rid of him yet. Maybe when Cody Gakpo does sign, we see what he does. Maybe we can switch to Cody Gakpo if he's cheaper. But as Combe says here, would you rather have a player that misses a chance or a player that doesn't even get any chances? Yeah, I agree with this one. Nunes is getting the chances, and I definitely hold. It's not like he's not getting anything. He's pretty much involved in everything Liverpool do up front. He gets more big chances than Mo Salah does, and just variance and so one of them has to go in surely soon. And if he can just have that bit of composure in front of goal, I think Nunes will start scoring goals and he will repay the faith for the owners. And that's my opinion on it. I think he's a definite hold for me. What's your thoughts on it, Jordan? Would obviously you own Nunes as well. I'm assuming
Yeah,
you're going to hold and give him a chance, see how he does.
absolutely. May I just say, for all Nunes owners that have brought him in, we all knew the risk that this could possibly happen. That he has many chances, but he doesn't obviously get any chances like a return. So this was always a possibility of happening, which I sort of saw, or hindsight saw this coming. But I wouldn't say this is a bad thing, as Cole mentioned in the chat. It's actually a good thing that he's actually getting his chances, because there are players that we do have who don't get near enough these chances that Nunes is getting. And it's only a matter of time where, with these fixtures that Liverpool have coming up, Nunes could potentially score in any one of these, and we'll be saying, "Oh yeah, we should have kept him in if you have sold him
Mm,
already." So he is a player that you have to be patient with. I know he had a lot of chances that he missed yesterday in the game, but this could happen to any player. Like, it could happen to a Salah, for example. So it is variable on, obviously,
mm,
players' chances like Nunes had yesterday. Like, obviously, it's understandably frustrating that he missed them all in blanked, but he is a player that's getting all these chances, and we can't forget that he can score any time if he can. So with 5 goals and 2 assists behind him, that will certainly improve in the upcoming 5 fixtures that Liverpool have. And over attacking players, over defending players, I think the Liverpool assets are definitely a must-have, at least 2, and that does include Nunes as one of them for a forward pick. Even though he's a bit expensive at 9 million, he is providing these chances of scoring and obviously giving assists as well. So yeah, don't rush in to sell him. Hold on to him
yeah.
and give him more chances, as it may it will obviously pay off eventually for you.
Yeah, obviously it's up to the manager's what you decide to
Yeah,
do, guys. But I think we'd be holding on to him, or I would if I had him. So I went with Salah instead. But yeah, I think if you own him, then you have to hold him. Uh, Moving on to another player, and these are the ignores. So these are the players that we think you should ignore basically, not bring in regardless of their performance. Maybe a lot of people bringing them in, and the first one who's had a few transfers in is Ivan Toney. Now, Tony was actually very good against Spurs. I thought he caused problems to the Spurs backline all day. Him and Embuemo were giving that Spurs defense in that first half, especially a torrid time. He's physical. He was getting involved. He also scored a goal. He also had another goal disallowed, slightly offside. He should have held his run better. Um, but yeah, Tony is still a very, very good player, a very good pick. Obviously, again, as we said with the first pick on the sell, for the purpose of this video, we had to just put Tony as an ignore because a lot of us have Haaland and a lot of us have uh, Nunes as well. And Mitrovic has a double game week coming up. Martial has good fixtures. So there's only 3 spots, guys, for the striker spots. And for me, there's 3 other strikers I'd want instead of Tony. Maybe even 4 other strikers I'd want. Even Nketiah, I'd probably rather have Nketiah over Tony at this moment in time. So that's why he's an ignore. I don't think he's a bad pick. It's just, as always, purpose of the video, we thought he could be an ignore after his performance against Spurs. So yeah, I don't think he's a bad pick or anything like that. It's just, yeah, 11 goals, 2 assists. Numbers speak for himself. And but the fixtures they are a bit tough in the next 2. I know West Ham did lose 3-1 to Arsenal, but I don't know what you guys think of that. I think that could be a tough one for them, away to West Ham. Liverpool at home, that could be tough for them. I expect Liverpool to maybe come back within that game and maybe get the win as well. So, and then after that, it's not too bad. But yeah, he's being ignored for us. And I'd hold on to Nunes. I wouldn't downgrade price wise, I should say. And I'd ignore. Thoughts, Jordan?
Yeah, I think for the next 2 fixtures that Tony has, West Ham away and Liverpool home, I think you can ignore him for those 2 and then potentially bring him in game week 20. But for the sake of this, for the current case at the moment, he is an ignore Tony, even though people may disagree with it, the way he performed against Tottenham yesterday. But we have to consider as well the fixtures that Brentford have coming up. I mean, West Ham away, defensively, it's a bit tough to grind them down, so you can't expect many goals from Brentford potentially in that game. And then obviously Liverpool at home, another tough game where there could be not many goals in that either from Tony in particular. So despite that, though, his record's been pretty good, scoring 11 goals and 2 assists. And yeah, I think that will set to continue. I think, but more after game week 19, where Brentford's fixtures do swing back into easy mode again. But yeah, as a player, he's pretty good this season. I think he's almost matched his record for amount of goals and assists from previous season as well. So he is pretty much actually, smashing it, Tony, at the moment.
Yeah.
There's still many more matches to come. He is priced at 7.4, so he's a decent price. I don't expect that to really go down. It will probably stay the same. His ownership obviously has got up a bit more from that result from yesterday against Spurs, drawing to Brentford. But yeah, I think for the moment, Tony is an ignore.
Yep. Finally, the final player that's an ignore, and it is Virgil van Dijk. Now, Virgil van Dijk did score as well yesterday, so we thought we'd put him on the list. Maybe a few people want to bring him in after his goal. So 15 appearances. He has got 2 goals from centre back, which is pretty nice for those that owned him. We'd ignore Van Dijk just because he's a centre back, and as we said earlier on the stream, we don't expect Liverpool to keep many clean sheets because Liverpool don't look defensively solid. They are very easy, in my opinion, to create chances against. And Liverpool are conceding a lot of big chances still. Because even though they won yesterday, 3-1, Villa could have easily had 2 or 3 goals themselves. Liverpool were conceding quite a lot of chances, high quality ones as well. So I'm not too keen on the Liverpool for clean sheets. So that's why Van Dijk is an ignore. And I don't believe he's going to score every week either. So that's why we've put him as an ignore, as people will knee-jerk him in because they've seen him score a goal. But he's not going to score every week, and I don't expect him to keep many clean sheets. He's not really a guy that's going to get you assists either. And I'd rather spend my Liverpool slot on a Nunes, a Salah, a Robertson, even a Trent before Van Dijk, and potentially Cody Gakpo now, a new signing for Liverpool. So I think Van Dijk isn't maybe not the right use for a Liverpool slot. That's just my thoughts on it. I'd rather get other players in, especially the fullbacks, Trent and Robbo, if I was getting Liverpool defenders. Thoughts, Jordan?
Yeah, I think this is an easy ignore. I mean, I think we prefer going with Liverpool attackers, like we mentioned, Nunes, Salah, and whatnot. But it does take up a slot if you do have Van Dijk in your team, which may limit the assets you want to bring in terms of attacking for Liverpool. And yeah, as we mentioned, Van Dijk is a centre back, so he won't potentially get that many attacking returns, as he's only had 2 goals. The only threat he can have is from maybe corners where he could
Yeah.
possibly header the ball into the goal. But apart from that, there's not really much else that Van Dijk can provide apart from obviously clean sheets for a defender. So yeah, he is an easy ignore. I think I don't think you necessarily need to bring a Van Dijk after scoring yesterday in yesterday's game against Aston Villa. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say for Van Dijk.
Okay, that has been the players that we've selected for you. Those are the 8 players. So just a quick recap. The 2 players that you should be looking to buy are Mitrovic and Robertson. You should be looking to sell Zaha and Perisic. You should hold on to Callum Wilson and Darwin Núñez, and you should ignore Ivan Toney and Virgil van Dijk. So those are the 8 players that we've selected for you guys. We're going to get some few questions, and then we're going to wrap the stream up. So we've got a question here by Michael. Would you rather have Cancelo or use funds to get Mitrovic? Personally, I think at this moment in time, I would rather just hold Cancelo and then wait and see what he does. Obviously, he plays tomorrow against Leeds, so I would be leaning towards just keeping Cancelo. Maybe see how he does tomorrow in that Leeds fixture. If he goes and gets in a clean sheet and maybe an attack and return, I think we'd all be holding him for that one. But Mitrovic is one that I think we should be looking at for game week 19 for these double game weeks. So I will be getting Mitrovic in. I can't afford Mitrovic because I've got Martial. There's only 0.1 million to go from Mitrovic. Sorry, to go from Martial to Mitrovic. So that's the way I'd be doing it. But I don't know if I'd be wanting to get rid of Cancelo yet, if I'm honest. I'd keep him. Jordan?
Yeah, I mean, I'm holding on to Cancelo just to see what he can do in his coming fixtures. I mean, if he can get an attack and return in tomorrow's game, then yeah, I'll probably keep him. But if he's still the same as he was when we saw him before the World Cup, where he wasn't really getting many attack and returns other than a clean sheet, then we may look to other direction in terms of saving up money for a cheaper defender who is getting those attack and returns.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I plan to hold him. We've got FPL Penguin. Evening, guys. Evening to Penguin.
Evening.
Hope you're well. Combe. I've got Haaland, Kane, and Núñez. So it's hard for me to bring in Mitrovic. But if Kane picks up a yellow, he'll be swapped for Mitrovic for the double. Being a Fulham fan, it's difficult going without. I say very interesting attack. You've gone pretty heavy there. Yeah, I mean, Mitrovic, I do like him for that double. But I like Haaland, Kane, and Núñez as well. And I think you can't really go wrong with those 3 either. Kane obviously scored as well on the weekend. Sorry, not the weekend, on Boxing Day. Haaland, you can't get rid of him. And Núñez, I think he's a hold. So, yeah, it's in a tough situation for you, I guess. But, yeah, I'd hold if I had that attack. You've clearly gone that way for a reason because you believe in those 3. So, I'd be patient with it. Philip also says, did you guys go Salah or KDB? I went Salah after a long debate back and forth. And Jordan?
Yeah, I went with neither. I haven't got Salah or KDB for it.
Brave. Very brave. But yeah, I decided to go with Salah. I had it on KDB, but switched it last minute. But yeah, obviously you went with Bruno, which is interesting. And obviously he plays tonight, so it'll be interesting to see what he does. But yeah, we will talk about all of that tomorrow. So do join us tomorrow in a stream, I think 10 p.m. So it's going to be a late one for a knee-jerk stream. Should be good, though. So do drop a like on the video and also subscribe to our channel if you haven't already, guys, because we'll have a lot of content through this period into the new year as well. And if you do enjoy it, just help us out with a like. I've got George here, Zaha replacement, except for Almiron, Saka, and Martinelli. He says limited good midfield option. I'm going to say one, and that's Ødegaard. If you don't have, I mean, assuming you already have a triple. If you have a triple up on Arsenal, then maybe not. But I like Ødegaard as a pick. I think you should be looking at Ødegaard, guys. I think he could carry on this form. Who else, Jordan, that you like the look of in midfield?
This is a risky one because it's not sure whether he's going to play on Wednesday, but it is Rodrigo. I'd probably recommend as a replacement. But obviously wait until Wednesday when Man City play against Leeds, whether he starts or not, because he is flagged for a hamstring injury, but it's not serious one. It is a minor hamstring injury. So if Rodrigo is fine and we see him play well in Man City game, I would probably say Rodrigo as a Zaha replacement.
Also, for me, potentially Foden is one that you look out for. See how he does tomorrow. There is obviously worry that he could get rotated in game week 18, but I like Foden as well as a pick for midfield. We read this one. Lee Fisher, welcome. Nunes deserved an assist for third Liverpool goal yesterday. Yeah, Nunes was heavily involved in actually that goal. He runs. That's one thing you like about Nunes. He doesn't ever give a ball up. He always tries and make sure that he doesn't drop his head after missing a chance. And he runs down the byline, crosses it in. The goalkeeper pushes it out, and then we know what Bachetic goes around the keeper and gets a lovely goal. But yeah, I hear that. Nunes was involved still for Liverpool, and he actually got man of the match yesterday. Would you rather have cancer? Oh, we read this one. Sorry. Colm, how are we all looking? I'm currently 48 points with 4 to play. We're not going to discuss how we're looking yet. You'll have to tune into tomorrow's show, the knee-jerk live reaction, where we will talk about our points and our rank and all that stuff. So yeah, this was just a transfer tips video. But yeah, good luck to you at Colm as well. Obviously, a few games left to end the game week 17, and hopefully everyone can get the green arrows. Anyway, that's it from us. We are going to wrap the video up. I just want to say a massive thank you to everyone that has joined the stream. It's been nice chatting with you guys, and yeah, it's been a good stream. Some games, obviously, Chelsea are playing tonight against Bournemouth, and then you've got Manchester United as well later on. So I'm probably going to go watch the games and yeah, enjoy that as well. And then tomorrow we'll be back for another stream, as I said, knee-jerk live reaction straight after the Man City game. So don't miss out, guys. Like the video, subscribe to the channel if you are new. And anything else you'd like to add, Jordan, before we do wrap it up?
Yes, thank you for your comments in the chat. It's very appreciated as always. And thanks for watching also, for those who have tuned in to the stream. And yeah, have a great time watching the rest of, obviously, this game week, because it's not over yet, of the matches today and tomorrow.
Yep. Take care, guys, and see you soon. Peace out.
Take care, guys. See you.